Hello and welcome to another episode of Exploring Standards. I am your host, Jess, and today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Sam Cande, CEO of Responsible Futures, to the show. Sam, how are you?
I'm really good. It's so good to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm very much looking forward to this conversation as well. It's something a bit different that we're having on our podcast. Obviously, usually we dive into sort of standards and ISOs, and we're veering away from that a little bit today, but I feel like it's a very important topic, and I think it's something that we need to cover. So today we are actually discussing how businesses can become more sustainable and socially responsible. Sam is an absolute guru in this area. So before we get into the actual questions, Sam, can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself, if that's okay, please?
Yeah, sure. So I am Sam Cande. I'm the CEO of Responsible Futures, and we are an organisation dedicated to guiding, inspiring and educating people and businesses to become more sustainable and socially responsible through consulting, training. We do educational webinars, masterclasses, and also have a podcast called Sustain Talks, which is on Spotify and iTunes and under Responsible Futures YouTube channel, where all of the webinars are as well. But I spent 20 years in publishing conferences and exhibitions, but started my sustainability career, I'd say about 10 years ago, when I was the director of Sustain magazine. It was way too early for sustainability, and I moved into the business travel industry, was in business travel for 8 years, working on the largest trade exhibition. But 3 years ago, I decided to move to a purpose-driven career and launch the business. And I talk about sustainability day in, day out, speak to people about sustainability and social responsibility every single day. And I just want to simplify sustainability. I think often it becomes really complex. So I think about it the way that I understand things and try to make it as simple as possible and for as many people as possible.
Oh, fantastic. You can just hear how passionate you are, and I'm very excited to get into this conversation. So my first question going into this is, how does social responsibility support sustainability?
So the way I look at it is, I think you need to take a holistic approach. You can't be sustainable if you're not being socially responsible. If an organisation is shouting from the rooftops that they're being sustainable, but they have a really bad culture, or they're not being diverse and inclusive, they're not supporting the local community, local charities, prioritising education and supporting mental health, then I think that they lose their authenticity. A company that prioritises sustainability and social responsibility, you know that they're doing good, and you know that it's authentic. I think that there's often an overlap between the two. When you look at it, when you go into a company and look at all the work that they're doing, they really do overlap. And that's the kind of companies that I always move towards when I can see that they're being sustainable and socially responsible. I think as supply chains are being more scrutinised as well, it's important that you're doing both equally well.
I love to hear that they do go hand in hand, and you need to look at the whole picture, not just one section. It is a bit of everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess the big question really is, how can businesses be more sustainable?
I think the first question you need to start with is, what does sustainability mean to you as a business, and what does it mean to your stakeholders? Because every single industry, while sustainability has the same basic principles, it can differ what your supply chain needs, what your customers need, what your employees need. So once you've started with what it means to you and to your stakeholders, you then can define a clear sustainability strategy, looking at goals, measurements, values, priorities, KPIs, and then you go into reducing your emissions. So your energy, water and material usage, travel, transport, digital and technology. Then look at your supply chain, and I'm really just giving the basics here. Look at your supply chain. Choose suppliers that have environmental values and social values. Redo your policies, so make sure that you put questions within your policies and engage with your suppliers while you're doing that. And be socially responsible, fair wages, safe working conditions, have a diverse and inclusive workforce, ensure human rights throughout your supply chain, engage with the local community and support the community through giving and volunteering and partnerships. And foster a sustainability culture. So educate and engage employees in sustainable practices, encourage employees to contribute ideas. I've seen, we've done some training with companies, and when we, at the end of the day's training, we ask the employees to come up with some ideas of a project that they can take forward. And the ideas they come up with are just beautiful and so great for the company, and often offer many benefits for the company. So speak to everybody, speak to your customers. And then measurements and reporting. Make sure that you have a robust system for that measurement. And then finally, I would say look at accreditations. So many of the accreditations that are out there have really, really great frameworks, and you can follow those frameworks. Whether you actually go through with the accreditation or not, you can follow the framework, and it will give you all the directions. But that's like a very whistle-stop tour of what you can do for starters.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I think that's really going to help people kind of give it a launch pad of where you can go back to basics, and then how you can build on that. So, what is the difference between corporate social responsibility and environmental social governance?
CSR and ESG. I
Yes.
hear the terms so much, and I really think it depends on the size of your company, because many people are using the term ESG nowadays in the same way that we use sustainability and social responsibility. And ESG is actually a set of standards, GRI, SASB, that measure a company's environmental, social, and governance criteria. ESG is used by investors, analysts, and stakeholders to assess these practices. They influence investment decisions, corporate strategies, and reporting standards. CSR is a broader concept, so it's about companies' voluntary actions and initiatives to improve its impact on society and the environment. So CSR, corporate social responsibility, is really when you're looking at your workplace and your charity partnerships, and what you're doing in the community, and then obviously ESG is a little bit more strict, but actually it's quite relaxed. The sustainability has been around for 70 years, and the terms always change, but the implications are actually the same.
Okay, thank you. What are companies' legal obligations in regards to social responsibility under the Companies Act 2006?
Okay. Firstly, I am not a corporate lawyer, so this is just my opinion. I think that all of the regulations in the UK are very wishy-washy. The content of the Act uses words like companies should consider, companies are encouraged to, and I think that's why there's a lot of confusion. In the EU, they're coming out with a lot more stronger and clearer regulations. Recently, there was the announcement of banning greenwashing and terms like carbon neutral and offsetting. In the UK, you do also have the Green Claims Code. There's also the 2012 Social Value Act. But really, when you're looking at the regulations, I actually think that the accreditations are much stricter and better to follow than when you look at the government criteria. That's just my opinion.
That's okay. It's interesting, isn't it, that it's very wishy-washy. Hopefully, moving forward, we can go something that's a bit more structured, and put a bit more in place, because it is such an important topic. And as that, you know, all companies should be pushing towards, and the government really should be kind of encouraging that. And I think with wishy-washy guidance, and that's not really seen to like play the level field.
Yeah, I mean, I like when I look at sustainability, social responsibility, I actually look for the things that businesses are doing rather than things that the government are doing. And I know it sounds bad, but the way that the government's making decisions around this topic, I think it's really doesn't seem to be a priority. But businesses that are making a difference in this topic are coming out with some great things and are proud to talk about their endeavours and what they're doing. So, yeah, I just think that if we depend on the government guidelines, that we're never ever going to get where we need to get to.
Okay. So finally, what would be your final words on how a business can be more sustainable? If you had one little final bit, what would it be?
I think it's be authentic. Don't tick box it. Talk to a professional or bring someone in to do the role. Or if you can't afford to employ someone, then put together a sustainability committee. Think both sustainability and social responsibility, and speak to your stakeholders and make sure that your values are aligned. But that would be my big tips, really.
I love that. I think you're right when you say it's like it has to be in a value within your company for then to it to come out. Otherwise, it is a bit false, and especially clients these days and consumers and that they're picking up on falses, aren't they? And they're like, well, actually, it's not enough, is it? And it's not enough in terms of improving the environment, improving the world.
Yeah, when I see, I recently started, I've switched suppliers to one that aligns with my values, and I love what they're doing. I want to support that supplier. I'm speaking about that supplier all the time, and I think when you can see that it's authentic, and I look at what they're putting out and their content and why they're doing it, and it made me want to work with them as a supplier. So yeah, and actually the clients that I work with, I really some of them they're just doing so much great work, and it really means a lot to them. And it's again that word authentic, it comes through. You can really tell when a company is not being authentic about their sustainability and social responsibility credentials, and that will turn people off. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Sam, for joining me on today's episode. I'll pop some more information about all the work Sam's doing. I'll put some links into to her website, and remind us again what your podcast called.
Sustain Talks, if you find it on Spotify or iTunes, or check out my YouTube channel on which is Responsible Futures, or come and find me on LinkedIn, Sam Cande. I'm always putting lots and lots of content on there too.
Fantastic. I'll pop a link to your LinkedIn on there as well, so people can come and find you in our show notes. So thank you for joining me on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Jess. I really, really enjoyed it.
Good. And thank you to my listeners for listening to today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the podcast. And I'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks.